Hello. Tonight we are entering into Joshua chapter 4. And when we get into the book of Joshua, we're going to see a lot of stories that we're very familiar with and a lot of chronologies. We're not going to be able to dig into all of those in detail because, like we said, this is a reading, not a study. But as we get into chapter 4, it's really good. They're crossing the Jordan. And a couple of things that Joshua does right off the bat is worth noting. He has one man from each one of the tribes pick up a stone and he brings it out of the middle of the river. And as soon as they cross over the river, everybody's crossed over and the priests come out with the Ark of the Covenant. The waters can flood back to flood stage, and they set up those stones as a memorial. We're going to see the word memorial throughout the book of Joshua a few times, where they want to make sure you remember things. Joshua goes out of his way to make sure that they have the opportunity to remember. We're going to see that all the way through the book. One of the things that's very interesting, on the 10th day of the first month, now remember, they've been wandering in the desert for 40 years, and here they are getting ready to start this process, going into Jordan and everything. And it's the 10th day of the first month. And if you remember that, the 10th day of the first month is the day that they select the lamb for the Passover. So they're getting ready to go through a Passover ritual. And if you look down, you see a lot of things. When you get into chapter 5, they're reinstituting circumcision. So circumcision hasn't been done on the folks, on the children that were born in the wilderness wandering. So it's not until they get into the land of Canaan that they are circumcised. So all the males have to be circumcised. And then they eat the Passover on the 14th day. And if you remember back in Exodus, it said that only men who have been circumcised can eat the Passover. And so they're getting all of this set up. Another very interesting thing that goes on in chapter, towards the end of chapter 5 is Joshua sees this man, and he looks like a soldier, and he draws his sword, and he says, "Are you a friend or foe?" And the guy says, "I'm neither. I'm the prince of the Lord's army." And this is referred to as either a Christophany or a theophany, depending on whether you believe it's Jesus or just God taking the form of a man. We've seen this before. So anyway, he says, "Take off your shoes, because where you're standing is a holy place." Remember, we've heard that before too. That was Moses at the burning bush. So what God's doing is God is reenacting in Joshua, as he starts his leadership of the people, he's reenacting the same things that went through Moses. He's reenacting him appearing to him originally as in the burning bush, to Moses, and now as this leader of the Lord's army. And it's appropriate it's the leader of the Lord's army. That's what Joshua's getting ready to do. And so then also they reenact the Passover, they reinstitute circumcision, and then they actually have the Passover. Chapter 6 then is going into the quote, Battle of Jericho. And you know the story. They were told to march around it other than the trumpet blast in silence once a day for 6 days, and on the 7th day there would be a big trumpet blast, and then Joshua would tell them to scream, and at that point they would all yell, and the walls would fall down. God makes a very specific statement to them here, very, very specific statement, and that is that don't take any of the goods. Don't take any of the gold, the silver. Don't save anybody. We're going to see this multiple times as well. But this particular one's important when we get into the next chapter. He ends the chapter by saying, expressing a curse on anyone who rebuilds the walls of Jericho. And we need to make sure we don't see that it is perfectly okay for them to occupy Jericho, the space where that city was, but they couldn't rebuild the walls. And number of weeks from now, when we get to 1 Kings, we're going to see that this curse actually comes to completion. But anyway, fascinating chapters, ones that we all know, we all learned as a kid. We sang the song, Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho. I hope you enjoy. I'll talk to you more tomorrow.